Okay. Are we rolling? Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here and being a great audience. We really appreciate it. I know everyone in this room worked really hard for the last month working on their speech, with researching, writing, and practicing their delivery. So I really appreciate so many people being here to support their classmates and to cheer them on. This is the 15th annual Levi High School Speech Contest, school-wide speeches. So every student in the school will be delivering their speech today. And this period, we will have, in this order, Anatolii, Claire, Julian, Aaron, Josue, and Solomon. I think that's what's going to fit. Mia, Estrella, and David, who are also in this class, are going to go 7th period. But if we have extra time of you three, is there any of you three who would prefer to go this period if there's time? Okay, we don't have to. We can finish, and then I made muffins for everyone. We can celebrate by eating together. All right, thanks for all your hard work. Remember, students, when you get up here, remember to speak slowly and clearly, pause, and show your power and passion. Our first speaker is Anatolii.
Just picture yourself running through the streets of San Francisco surrounded by tent cities, drug addicts, and criminals, terrified of accidentally bothering one of them. Imagine our uniquely gorgeous cities turning into huge piles of trash due to uncontrolled homelessness. As of 2025, almost 200,000 people were forced to face life on the streets, making California the official leader in the homeless population all over the country. While our state constantly spends billions trying to improve the situation, our homeless population only grows. Homelessness also poses direct danger to its own victims due to weather conditions, lack of food, and diseases. In order to make our community a better place, we must reduce homelessness through the increase of affordable housing, right to shelter laws, and economic improvement. While homelessness might seem common, the truth is that it spreads through our communities like a contagious disease. Today, almost every place in our country is overcrowded with the homeless. From coast to coast, more and more people find themselves in the midst of the crisis. While some people refuse to take the situation seriously, our communities are the ones directly impacted by the issue, as Cam Matters explains. Our country saw an increase of 18%, and 22 states saw double-digit increases. Only 6 states, including Wyoming, Tennessee, and Maine, saw a decrease in the homeless population. Nationally, the problem keeps worsening. Only 6 out of 50 states saw a decrease in the homeless population over the previous year. Millions are simply unable to pay the most general expenses, such as the most basic one, rent. The leader among the highest average rent is obviously California. While our government constantly tries to do something about it, nothing seems to work, as Cam Matters states. New data shows nearly 186,000 people now live on the streets and in homeless shelters in California, proving the crisis continues to grow despite the state and local efforts to stem the tide. Our government acknowledges the issue, but fails to fight it. Sometimes, people simply choose to ignore the homeless. Other times, the local governments refuse to provide funds to cope with the issue. We have to fight to make our community a better place. Even though the government tries its best to cope with the issue, the most effective way to fight it is to explore the roots of it, which means finding the issue and preventing it before many more lose their homes. Our government constantly improves in building affordable housing. However, the amount of people losing homes is simply too large to deal with. We simply aren't quick enough to deal with the rapidly growing homeless population. Due to LA County wildfires, many more people have recently become unhoused. Some local governments are also slowing the process down by refusing to build low-income housing, as suggested by CNN. We've got communities out there refusing to build low-income housing because they think it's all just child rapists and molesters. So that's the dynamic we're facing, right? Not only is it drug dealers and criminals, but also thousands of veterans out on the streets. Because the federal government can't allocate the budget of the smaller counties, they simply can't force the local governments to spend money towards the cause. However, anywhere from Monterey County to Los Angeles, the rent is simply too high for the low-income homeless people to handle. Our state does not have nearly enough affordable housing. At the same time, the economy is not better. As New York Times states, more than 50% of the people surveyed in Los Angeles have cited economic hardship as the primary reason that they fell into homelessness. In San Francisco, 26% of the people surveyed have cited the loss of a job as the primary cause. California yet again proves itself as the most expensive state. While the prices keep going up, the wages are not nearly where they should be. While inflation has reached 3% over the previous year, the wages have only increased by 50 cents. As a part of the solution, our state has to build more affordable housing to reduce the amount of homelessness. Now, if we really aim to make our community a better place, we have to rely heavily on our state government. Affordable and permanent housing would be the ultimate best solution. Moreover, many homeless people simply can't restart their lives due to mental health struggles. As the CNN reporter points out, if 2/3 of the people in our communities are facing mental health struggles, we can't just pay their rent. In order to not only beat homelessness but also maximize safety in our societies, we have to force homeless people into the mental health help. Just imagine getting back to normal life after years of being out on the streets, considering the fact that a big percentage of homeless Americans are former criminals. Most importantly, the Newsom administration is now spending more money to combat homelessness than this state ever has before. The federal government needs to get back in the game and do what it was used to do, which is to provide housing as a guarantee. While our government constantly provides funds to cope with the issue, other disasters such as wildfires occur, constantly slowing down the process even more. The more homeless are removed from our streets, the cleaner our cities will be and the safer life in our communities will get. It is only up for us to fight the most rapidly growing issue of the 21st century, homelessness. Although homelessness has grown out of hand in the past decades due to inflation and job loss, through government intervention and community volunteering, we have all it takes to reduce homelessness now. As we progress towards creating more affordable housing and the right to shelter laws, going for a run in our cities will no longer feel like a hustle. Just remember, it is only up for us to decide what we want our community to be. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, you guys. You can start as soon as you're ready with what's.
Okay. Remember the trial between PepsiCo and a man named Ronald Ball? This 2012 trial was from a lawsuit against PepsiCo because Ronald Ball had claimed to have found a dead mouse in his soda. If you know what trial I'm talking about, you know that PepsiCo won the trial because they were able to prove that a dead mouse carcass would be completely disintegrated in the soda by the time Ball had opened and drank it. Imagine drinking soda with a disintegrated mouse in it and not even knowing. This proves that there are some crazy chemicals in soda, as well as overly processed foods, that we are willingly consuming and that are harming our health. A main way we can make our community a better place is by monitoring and researching all of the chemicals that are being put into our foods. These are in the form of preservatives as well as other things like artificial sweeteners. Many public health issues like obesity, heart disease, and cancer would be greatly diminished if we all stopped consuming overly processed foods and sodas. All the food preservatives we eat and keep eating can be toxic and are ruining our health. The fact is that there are deadly chemicals that we are eating every day, more specifically sodium benzoate. Sodium benzoate is a chemical typically used in preserving packaged foods, sodas, and some beauty products. According to Healthline, preliminary studies have evaluated other possible risks of sodium benzoate. These include inflammation, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, appetite control, oxidative stress, and allergies. These can be some pretty life-altering diseases. We need to monitor the foods with this chemical and try to avoid them. The most common foods with sodium benzoate include carbonated drinks, sauces, marinades, tomato paste, and fruit preserves, all according to the National Library of Medicine. There can be a lot of harm done to your health after ingesting sodium benzoate and other chemicals that are being used as food preserves. These chemicals are leading to many health effects in our community. We especially see this in America. There is a drastic difference between the health of citizens here in America and health of citizens in other countries, proving that what we are ingesting is ruining our health. The chemicals used to preserve foods aren't the only problem. There is a high risk factor in artificial sweeteners as well. These sweeteners are a lot more deadly than you would originally think. According to the Mayo Clinic, studies dating back to the 1970s linked this artificial sweetener saccharin to bladder cancer in rats. Since then, research has shown that those findings don't apply to people. Yet, research on long-term daily use of artificial sweeteners suggests a link to a higher risk of stroke, heart disease, and death overall. There are a ton of health factors that come from consuming artificial sweeteners, especially when consumed regularly and in large amounts. This is one thing wrong with our community that we can fix. There are so many alternative options for some things that are presumed safe, when in reality the alternative option may be more unsafe than the original option. For example, sugar. People may be told that they need to eat less sugar, so they are switching to artificial sweeteners that aren't actual sugar. The problem with this is that artificial sweeteners may have more health risks than actual sugar does. There has been research done that proves that the intake of artificial sweeteners is linked to weight gain and obesity. In this case, the original product is healthier for you. You just have to monitor how much you are consuming and have the willpower to lower your intake if needed. It is hard to believe, but these chemicals that are being put into our foods and drinks are so harmful that they can even be used as an option for suicide, and have been. The stuff that we are purposely putting into our foods has been used for an option for suicide. The stuff that we are showing just how lethal they are. Sodium nitrate specifically is being used as an option for suicide. According to the Canadian Medical Association Journal, Alberta Health Services Poison Centre saw at least 2 sodium nitrate poisonings causing serious harm last year and 2 more this year. This is not just happening in Canada, it is happening in the U.S. as well. In the U.S., the National Poison Data System recorded 47 cases of sodium nitrate poisonings between 2015 and 2020. Like in Ontario, most of these poisonings occurred in 2019 and 2020. There are studies showing that these chemicals that we are using to preserve our foods are also being used for suicide in some cases. You may not think this is a lot of cases over 5 years, But the fact is that there should be no cases of death from this common food preservative. The research done by the Canadian Medical Association Journal allows us to see that there are a lot more of these poisonings than we would originally think. Having awful chemicals in our foods is making it easy for people to find an alternative to life and poison themselves with a food preserve that is found in daily foods. Not everyone is consuming this chemical in large amounts on purpose, though. Many people unknowingly consume sodium nitrate when they consume hot dogs, deli meats, bacon, as well as some greens like spinach, lettuce, and celery. Having these foods is not originally a health risk. Most of these foods are actually really healthy for you without the added preservative of sodium nitrate. Consuming these foods can cause amines to react to sodium nitrate, which leads to the formation of nitrosamines. Nitrosamines have been linked to an increased risk of certain cancers, especially stomach cancer and colorectal cancer. Sodium nitrate was presumed safe to use, but if it can poison and kill someone that easily, I don't think it's the best option to preserve our foods. To fix this problem of poor health from food preservatives, we first have to monitor what is being put into our food and research the safety concerns that may come from the options we have. A good way to fix this problem as well is to become less lazy when regarding our health. A good way to fix... there are many alternative options. There are many alternative food preserves that are much safer than the chemicals that are being put into our foods. These include salt, garlic, vinegar, honey, sugar, simply freezing foods, and many others. Let's start using these safer methods. In our community, it is very important to monitor what we are consuming. We have to make sure that the things we are eating are not deadly. We also need to track how much of these chemicals that we are consuming. My mother always says, everything in moderation, meaning we need to use everything in moderation in order for our health to be My mother always says, everything in moderation, meaning that we need to use everything in moderation, or else it can be dangerous for your health and you may even get addicted. This is all just a start at making our community a better place, and it is a big step. Thank you.
We all know the incredible beauty that the Eastern Sierra possesses, such as snow-covered peaks and glistening lakes. This naturally attracts a vast amount of tourism, which fuels our economy. Now imagine that instead of indulging in unbelievable landscapes and breathtaking mountains, you encounter a barren and desolate Dust Bowl, a huge white plain, fueling life-threatening sandstorms in search of their next victims. Rather than finding astonishing environments full of life, you see a deserted community forced to flee their homes in order to not get lung cancer. A place once sanctuary to millions of birds, now bleak and colorless. You place your foot on the salt-filled flats to think that it was once a saline lake full of trillions of brine shrimp. A lake that was once full of water for over 1 million years. This is what we will see if we don't act in time and protect the treasures of Mono Lake. Although there are many organizations in the area striving to protect and maintain the beauty of Mono Lake, but there's still a lot to be done in order to make our community a better place. The best way to make a change is by bringing the community together to advocate for reduced water diversions, conservation and restoration projects, and promote stewardship. There are many reasons why our environment was near ecological collapse during the 1970s, primarily due to excess water diversions from the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, starting in 1941. For more than 80 years, water diversions have caused our streams to dry up, shrinking the water levels of Mono Lake. Mono Lake is home to an abundant amount of diverse life, from trillions of aquatic organisms to millions of sky-dwelling creatures, and it needs to be kept this way for future generations to come. Excessive water diversions can be incredibly bad for our community, as it could cause a chain reaction, leading to the abandonment of our home if not stopped in time. The only way of accomplishing that goal is by coming together as a community and fighting for the protection of the place that we love the most, our home. The main solution to bringing Mono Lake back to its designated water level is to advocate for reduced water diversions, but it's not as easy as it sounds. The Mono Lake Committee, an organization founded to save Mono Lake from Los Angeles water diversions, has been fighting a never-ending feud against Los Angeles since 1978. That's nearly 50 years. Fortunately, through the public trust doctrine, this organization was able to protect Mono Lake's water levels from becoming catastrophic. According to the Mono Lake Committee, the public trust is an affirmation of the duty of the state to protect the people's common heritage of streams, lakes, marshlands, and tidelands. In short, it grants the use of natural resources to the public, and it saves the lake for all of us. Protections came even faster because of the fish that were found in these tributary streams. The Supreme Court deemed that the water in these streams were crucial for the protection of these fish. This meant that the streams were entitled to water, that Mono Lake had to reach a level of 6,392 feet above sea level for the Los Angeles to continue with their larger water diversions. This is only one example of how advocating for the protection of Mono Lake can have a huge positive impact on the health of our community and our environment. As well as reducing water diversions, implementing targeted conservation and restoration projects is essential to preserve its unique ecosystem, protect local wildlife, and ensure a sustainable future for our community. Despite LADWP's greed, they were forced to implement restoration efforts in order to get the ecosystem functional and self-sustaining to protect the fish. According to the Mono Lake Committee, in 1998, the State Water Board issued 2 restoration orders, which required DWP to implement a restoration plan for Mono Basin streams and water flow habitat, both damaged by decades of excessive water diversions. Although these efforts to raise the water levels at Mono Lake haven't yet been completely successful, restoration is key for creating a strong foundation where Mono Lake is able to grow and flourish on its own. Through our individual help, we can all make a small difference in our community by going out and doing small restoration projects, such as cleaning up coastal trash at Mono Lake, planting trees near a stream, or even going out to do a bird survey to protect the wildlife population. We can all make a big difference if we all come together and make a community a better place for future generations to come. Another way to make our home a better place is by promoting stewardship and raising awareness about Mono Lake's ecological significance to inspire community involvement and foster long-term protection of this precious natural resource. In order to keep all the progress made to preserving our ecosystem's health, it's crucial that we educate our younger generations the importance of fighting for the well-being of our home. As teens, we might feel powerless or unable to make a change. But there's many ways of making our voice count, such as writing a letter to Congress or the State Water Board, or even creating a school group addressing these problems. There's organizations like the Mono Lake Committee and Experience Ambientalia, which strive to inform the youth on the importance of conserving our beautiful lakes and our community. For example, the Mono Lake Committee has a program called the Mono Basin Outdoor Education Center, which connects the inner city youth to teach them about the hidden treasures of the Mono Basin and also its issues posed by its degradation. Another example is Experience Ambientalia, which is an international NGO that teaches youth about the value of our interconnected saline lakes. As stated by Fundación Líderes de Ancenusa, we seek to mitigate threats by empowering young local leaders who will carry out impactful projects. As a participant, I can personally assure you that this program changes your entire views about the nature that surrounds you, while also connecting you to the community to make an effort to leave this place the way it originated. In essence, while many organizations have made strides in preserving the beauty of our community, much more can be done to ensure its sustainability and accessibility for all. By uniting the community to advocate for reduced water diversions, to support conservation and restoration projects, and to promote stewardship, we can create a lasting positive impact on our community and inspire future generations to appreciate and cherish these natural resources. The voices of the next generations do count. Please, don't let our lungs turn into dust. Thank you.
On March 16th, my Uncle Oscar's wedding turned from a bright sunny day where everyone's with a lot of happiness. I want to restart. Sorry. On March 16th, my Uncle Oscar's wedding turned from a bright sunny day with a lot of happiness to a day where everyone's life would change. He and his fiancée at the time had planned it out for years. Everything was perfect. Everything was perfect until everyone decided that they wanted to dance and have fun. My Uncle Alex, Oscar's older brother, decided that he wanted to have even more fun and took a pill that was rumored to be laced with morphine. The drug, combined with his poor health conditions, led him to have a seizure in the middle of the dance floor. He unfortunately passed away 4 days later on March 20th at the age of 37, leaving behind his wife and an 11-year-old son. Our community was strong. They stayed with him and parted with my uncle on his last few days of his life. But more information and less accessibility can make our community even stronger. Overdoses and opioid addictions are arguably the biggest epidemics of our generation, as they destroy bright futures, making them live in the shadows of their hopes and dreams, thanks to easy access to opioids. Did you know that 96% of opioid addicts come from prescriptions? It's not right that we can get drugs so easily. Our community has to step up. Prescriptions have to be more regulated. Prescribing people with so many of these super intense painkillers could lead them to abuse them in the future since they are so addictive. People want to block out all the bad feelings, so they take them not for medical reasons. An article by the National Center of Drug Abuse Statistics states, in 2017, drug overdose deaths were opioid-related, including 28,466 deaths were fentanyl-related, 17,029 deaths or prescription opioid related. In 2017, fentanyl caused the most deaths in the United States. 60% of those deaths were from painkillers that got hooked off prescriptions. Overprescribing people with painkillers lead people abusing them and getting addicted. Around 28,500 people died from fentanyl. Just imagine how many futures were destroyed because of drug use, just in the US. And keep in mind that the annual opioid use and form of addiction increases by 4% each year. We have to do something. Typically, a lot of drug addictions start because of trauma people have had in their past. This is why a lot of our heroes that fought for our country by risking their life end up with PTSD or mental health issues, and they rely on them to ease their pain. Veterans have a lot of war trauma when they are deployed. They usually come back with mental health problems that were caused from all of the horrifying memories they had to endure during the war. In the article, drug abuse statistic mentions 7% of veterans struggle with illegal drug use compared to 5.3% of the general population in the U.S. Over the age of 18. Being deployed or active in war can have big negative effects on your mental health. Being a veteran can have some advantages as well for your mental health. For example, it can make you a tough individual, but the negatives outweigh the positives. Our veterans fought for our country and come back with trauma, hallucinations, delusions, and in return we can't even give them decent health care. Once a civilian goes into any branch of the Army, all of the mental and physical challenges can change them as a human being. That's why a lot of our veterans are not the same, and they use drugs to relax their bodies and relax from everything they had experienced and take advantage of their bodies, making them into full-time users. Our community is already great, way better than other communities could ever dream of, but there is potential to make our community better than we could ever think of. Overdoses and opioid addictions are more common than someone would ever think. But there are so many ways that we can solve this epidemic, since most of our addicts that are hooked on opioids originally get hooked on prescriptions. Our leaders in the government have come up with a solution. According to the CDC, prescription drug monitoring programs can help prevent prescribing too many drugs to homes and reduce the abuse of painkillers. In my opinion, I believe that monitoring the number of opioid prescriptions per person would be ideal for reducing the number of people addicted to opioids drastically, and free drug rehab programs for everyone, not just the wealthy. A way we can help veterans with opioid addictions is to prescribe sessions with therapists that are mandatory to at least reduce the amount of mental health levels and of all the things they saw as soldiers in the war. There are many ways to solve or reduce this amount of overdose addictions, but there is no better time than to start now. Even though opioid addictions and overdoses are difficult to fight, I know that we are a strong community that can work together to prevent these addictions and save futures. There is no better time than to start now and make our community a better place for us and for our future descendants to have a childhood clean of drugs. Thank you. There you go. Sorry, I thought I skipped the number.
Housing is a dream for most that live in America, the American dream that eludes many people. The one thing stopping them from reaching the American dream is the struggle to find affordable housing. This is a rising problem that people in America face, and I've seen it take place where I live, in California. It took my parents years for them to find affordable housing for our family. Their whole lives in America, they have been renting and working a tremendous amount of hours to keep a roof over me and my siblings' heads. When I was younger, I didn't realize their struggles and efforts to provide for us. Now that I'm older, I realize that all that work to make rent payments is equivalent to what owning a house would have been. Finding a forever home, or even a temporary home, should not be as expensive as it is today. Down payment requirements are too big, and there are even more problems contributing to the housing crisis. America's affordable housing crisis has been on the rise, but now it is a much greater problem that people have started to notice in their communities. Problems contributing to the housing crisis are fewer home construction areas, low wages versus high home prices, and an ultimate decrease in government federal funding for new home construction. By solving and seeing these problems, I can see my community grow and become a better place. Home construction in America has seen a tremendous decrease throughout the years. This decrease is mentioned by the Pew Research Center, stating, fewer homes, especially starter homes, are being built now compared to about 2 decades ago. 186,000 homes under 1,400 square feet were built in 2004, compared with 87,000 in 2023. This is a very dramatic change. There were almost 100,000 more homes built in 2004 than there were in 2023. It is very surprising that 2 decades ago, there was more home construction in recent years. We should have seen an increase in home construction in recent years, but there has not been. This is why it is so difficult for families to find affordable homes to buy. Here in California, and where I live, Mono County, it has gradually gotten more expensive over the years. With California becoming more expensive, some people's wages cannot keep up with rent. Looking into my community, Mono County, according to a Mono County housing report, renters in Mono County need to earn $21.29, 1.3 times the state's minimum wage, in order to afford the average monthly asking rent of $1,107. Some people in California may be lucky enough to even earn minimum wage at a starting position for a job. Not many people are earning 1.3 times the state's minimum wage, and that needs to be taken into account. I know people, in most instances, rent may be even double or triple of what the housing report states. And I know people who pay at least $3,000 for a 3-bedroom apartment. We also need to look at people's income and how much is getting eaten away because of high rent. An article from Cal Matters states, more than half of Californians are rent burdened, which means that more than 30% of their income goes towards rent. Nearly a third of Californians are severely rent burdened, which means that more than half of their income goes towards rent. More than 30% of Californians' income going towards rent makes it seem that they only have enough money to pay for their rent. There are other needs that need to be paid for. There are other expenses that need to be paid for, and those needs are affected by inflation, which makes it even more difficult. With so many of people's income being eaten away by rent, they are in a constant battle and struggle to keep up with these payments, medical expenses, or money for food with a wage that barely supports their family. A solution to this problem would be to reduce rent payments. There needs to be rent control or government subsidies in order to lower rents to what is affordable. By reducing rent, I can see my community grow. Along with this struggle and decrease in home construction, there is also the federal government's decrease in funding for home construction. Here in Mono County, we can see from a Mono County housing report state federal government funding for home production and preservation in Mono County is $1 million, a 97% decrease from the year prior. This decrease in funding could have ultimately led to there not being enough home construction as in recent years. Taking a look at California and how much was spent in the past year, an article from Cal Matters presents us with a graph of how much California spent on housing. This graph shows us that California spent more on housing in 2022 than in 2023. The graph shows California, they went from spending just over $6 billion in 2022 to roughly $2.5 billion in 2023. This dramatic change is very surprising, yet it is not the lowest they have spent on funding. This decrease in spent funding should be noticed, and it is strange that one year they could spend a ton of money on housing and the next not as close to the same amount of money. We need funding from our government. or at least some of the tax that gets taken out of our paychecks should be used to contribute for new home construction. All these problems contributing to the housing crisis makes people's life a challenge and may end up crushing their hope and ultimately finding a forever home. With these problems I presented, there are solutions that are slowly starting to flourish, such as the affordable housing projects in Mammoth and June Lake, which will for sure grant people homes. I know in the future our community will become a better and bigger place when there are more solutions for affordable housing for everybody. Thank you.
Hey guys, make sure, just a quick reminder, cell phones should be out, they should all be off in your pocket or in your backpack. Josue, that's going on with your toys, and there were distractions. Okay, this is our last speaker this period, so everyone,
What?
Solomon, your full attention.
God damn it. Okay.
Okay, wait. We cannot do anything right now that would distract from someone's ability to give their best speech. So please be mature and respectful.
When you imagine an island, most people would think of the tropical paradise. What the hell? Okay, I'm gonna restart. 1 second.
You got this.
When you imagine an island, most people would think of the Hawaiian Islands, a tropical paradise and a vacation destination for millions of people each year. However, the islands that we need to start considering are the plastic islands in the North Pacific. These islands are made up of new sand, also known as microplastics. They are not a mere 20 feet across, but hundreds of miles, visible to satellites. These islands are littered with dead birds and other sea creatures who have come in contact with this trash and died. This needs to change, and it can start right here in our communities. Most people do not see how using a disposable water bottle can lead to the death of an animal, affect our health, create a toxic island, and even harm our planet on a large scale. The best way we can improve our communities is by reducing the disastrous amount of pollution we produce. When we make efforts to improve our community, we think about the people in it, but an issue that needs just as much attention are the animals that are affected by our community. The trash that we carelessly leave behind litters the trees, pollutes the lakes and rivers, and eventually washes into the ocean. This pollution is deadly to the animals it comes in contact with. This plastic trash not only affects this animal directly, but it affects their reproduction. According to California Fish and Game, this trash impacts the breeding grounds for many species of sea life. It is a substantial contributing factor to declines in these species. This is becoming a more daunting issue for the wildlife around us, because we are not just killing this generation of animals, but we are killing this family's future generations. This is not happening somewhere off in the distance. This is happening right here in California. Even when people dispose of their trash properly in landfills, much of this trash will blow away, and according to All County Recycling, this trash can contain toxins that eventually get into the soil and contaminate the soil around the area of this landfill, which can affect their surrounding habitats. This results in the die-off of plants and animals that rely on these plants for nutrition. Not only does this pollute the soil, but these toxins can be released into the air as methane, one of the largest contributors to the greenhouse effect, also known as climate change. This shows that the problem is not entirely how we dispose of our trash, but the amount at which we produce it. We as a community can decrease the amount of trash we produce to better the lives of the community around us by buying fewer single-use items, using more reusable Tupperware and water bottles. This pollution does not only affect the animals around us, it affects us in ways just as harsh. One of the most important aspects of our community is the mental and physical health of the people around us. Good health results in positive effects throughout our community. One way that we can improve both of these issues is by reducing our pollution. According to earthday.org, plastic in general affects us humans in harsh ways. Over 1,000 chemicals used in manufacturing of millions of different plastics around the world have been associated with cancers, infertility, Alzheimer's, miscarriages, and developmental issues.
The problem is plastic. Even before it has a chance to pollute, it is harmful to many things that it comes in contact. However, once it is polluted, it becomes deadly. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, plastics have the potential to absorb chemicals of concern from the environment and serve as a potential global transportation mechanism from contaminating of concerns in the food chain and potentially to humans who eat seafood. As humans, we are biting the hand that feeds us. We are harvesting food, cows, and seafood that is contaminated by our own pollution. As humans, we need to improve the ways that we go about this problem of pollution in order to improve our community, from both the animals and the people who inhabit it. Ways that we can do this are by using reusable water bottles, eating less prepackaged food, and disposing of our trash that we create in proper ways, by recycling, reducing, and composting. It is not hard to walk the extra steps to the proper disposal site instead of just throwing it over your shoulder. Pollution harms the animals and people around us, but have you ever stopped to think how it affects this planet that we call home? We have polluted the ocean with so much trash that we have created a new island entirely. This island is massive. The North Pacific subtropical gyre is formed by 4 currents rotating clockwise around an area of 20 million square kilometers, 7.77 million square miles. This island itself is estimated to be twice the size of Texas. This island is a direct example of our disgusting habit of overconsumption. Overconsumption has become one of the leading factors of the destruction that we bring to Earth. The amount at which we consume is not manageable for this planet, and has even shown that we're consuming the planet's resources 1.7 times faster than we can generate. We are eating up the planet's health with every chance we get. We are buying more than we can use and ordering more than we can eat. As a community, we can work together to protect the environment around us by producing better products for both the environment and for us by simply thinking before we buy. We have to stop taking our communities for granted and start making efforts to improve them. The faster we address this issue and start using reusable water bottles, thinking before we buy, and disposing of our trash, the faster we can gain control over this problem. We need to start treating this planet like our home instead of our trash can. Thank you.
We're still live. We're still live. All right. Quickly, we will go off in a second. All right, I just want to give a big hand to everybody who has gone already today. Excellent work. Everyone, clap for yourself. Lots of great speeches, lots of hard work. I was very impressed. Good job, everyone. For people who are watching online, we will be back up at about 11:05. Thank you for tuning in. And everyone else, congratulations. If you would like a muffin and you have not had one yet, go help yourself as a little appreciation of your hard work.